which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is the Preble Town Board meeting of August 10th, 2020. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes of the regular meeting on July 13th?
Make a motion, we accept them.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Jane?
There were 2 dogs picked up and returned to the owner. Stray Rottweilers picked up and euthanized. And 125 miles traveled for the town. Justice report, $11,986. Fees collected in July.
Thanks, Jane. Jeff, highway report?
Yes. Been a lot going on. I put a synopsis in the report of probably the biggest project that I've done in over 20 years here. We got Preble Hill opened back up this last Friday. I'm still pulling all the numbers together as far as how many ton of material and a lot of that, so I can give you that to you, but it's back open. We got some other finishing touches to do to harden it up. I got the county's going to come in and do some hydroseeding on the banks. So we got to do a little tile work and we'll touch up on some ditches. We're working. What I'm doing is I rent the machinery by the month. So when I need that piece of machinery, I move that to different jobs so I can get the month's rate and then come back and use other machinery as need be, or our own machinery. But I'd like to get all the bang for the buck we can out of machinery when we have it rented. So we're over on Henderson Road right now, and then after that we'll be moving up on East Hill Road, just down from where Bob Curry's Blue Martin building is. Been up there, it's rutted pretty good. We're going to dig that out and fabric it, put some gravel back in. Just a few other things. Here, Town of Aurelius has a 2000 John Deere. 17 years ago, we bought a used mower, and it's getting tired. It was 10 years old when we bought it. It's 27, 28 years old now. I've been looking for good used mowers. You were supervisor, I think, when we bought it. So I was over to Town of Aurelius today, looked at it. It's on Auctions International right now. I just want to let you know I'm looking at, right now it's at 12.4 on the bid. I'm thinking that if we could get it for around 18, I think we'd be doing okay. So let's throw it. I got it, and we talked about it for the last 3-4 years, looking for a good used roadside mower. So we'll see how that goes.
Is the hours on it roughly about
3,400.
Yeah, if they, I know you gave me the there. That was good. Thanks for dropping it off. But is that the average number of hours? It didn't say what year it was. But
Yeah, it's a 2000.
2000.
Yeah, it's close. Usually more tractors of that size, you start getting into the big dollars unless they've been abused.
Right.
Between 5,000 and 6,000, and that's 10 years down the road for us anyways. So
Yeah.
No leaks. I moved it around, and the mower seemed to be in pretty good shape. So and it had been undercover its whole life. So there's zero. All the rust on it you could cover with a couple of quarters. So.
And we have enough in the equipment fund to cover that.
Correct.
We've
Yes.
got 48,000 there right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for taking the time to look that over.
So do we need to make a resolution?
Yeah, I saw it.
Do we need to make a resolution to give Jeff authority to purchase this?
Is it in the budget now, or we're talking about capital funds?
No, it's in the current.
It's in the current budget, and it's there for that purpose?
Yeah.
It's already authorized, I
Okay.
guess, Jim.
Okay.
Just want to let you know what I was looking at. let you know after Wednesday night at 6:05. It works out. Couple other things, I was on a Zoom meeting last Thursday evening. Every 5 years, the county has a hazardous mitigation plan that needs to be updated. And so they actually had a kickoff meeting months ago, but this is kind of directing you as to where the next steps are. So we need to, a couple of things I got to get more clarification on. We're supposed to put some things on our website, and the deadline for it is in October to get submitted. And why that's important is if we do have a flood or any event that we're looking for FEMA money, we need to show we're compliant with this hazard mitigation plan to, have our hand out to hopefully get some money. Without it, I don't know what to, kind of that carrot and horse type of thing. So just something we need to do. So we're working on that. And the other thing is I got a email Friday from Cornell Local Roads Program, and they're starting up their in-person courses. Normally they're 6-hour course. They're condensing them back to a 3-hour course to limit the amount of exposure in person. And he was asking if we'd be all right with the board to host one of those at our shop. It's a bigger shop, and we could, space everybody like that. Don, you have any comment on that?
I mean, as long as they follow the guidelines, I think that wouldn't be a problem. Using the town facilities, that's an appropriate thing.
The CDC guidelines to be followed. Like I said, they cut them back from 6 to 3 hours. There'd be no food or anything like that, where you have common points. So, okay, I'll let it's all right with the board. This may not even happen. It's just they were starting to feel out where there's, buildings that might fit the bill. Normally, you sit in a room like this with 20 guys. So, I guess that's it. Unless anybody has any questions.
Did a good job on the road. I like that.
It's coming.
Yeah.
What's the best part is next spring when it's green, and
Mhm.
because we did Wright Road last year,
Right.
it's kind of neat to look at it a year from now and, after the fact, and it's like you didn't do anything because it's kind of back to its natural state, if you will. But thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Jeff. Recreation, do you have anyone from Recreation tonight? County Legislature, Kevin?
How you doing today? Couple of things that we're going. Did you receive the email from Paul?
Yes, just this afternoon I received that email, and what Kevin is alluding to is a resolution for unified solar pilot, right?
Yeah. So there is the big topic that we're having right now. So I chair the Ag and Planning, and right now Portlandville, Solon, and Homer have a proposed 90 megawatt solar farm. It's to cover 500 acres of land. And as part of that, that they have this company EDF is working with our industrial development agency, the IDA, that the county contracts with. And what they do is they go around and they're the ones that bring in, industry and stuff like that for Cortland County. By doing that, the one thing they do is they offer pilot, pay in lieu of taxes. Right now, Cortland County has a local law number 18 or 2018. What that is, that's a law that we have established that states in there that any solar that comes into Cortland County, for pay in lieu of taxes, it's $4,000 per megawatt. And right now, that 90 megawatt facility is 2,500. Why is it 2,500? because the IDA supersedes any laws that Cortland County has. And we're trying to repeal that part. But one of the things, because we had this big meeting, first it was of all the supervisors of Cortland County. And what they wanted to do is to come together as a whole unit and say, it's going to be this for the dollar amount. Because out of that $4,000 per megawatt, it gets divvied up between county, town that it's in, school district. So really what it is, it's not a lot of money. And right now, with the IDA that supersedes us, the law doesn't mean anything. So that's why we're trying to get it in or get it out of here. But where we can do this is by the municipalities. Home rule kicks in. Municipalities can create and make their own resolution to state a certain dollar amount. The way that all the municipalities have agreed on, they agreed on $7,000 per megawatt. 1,500 of that goes directly per megawatt, goes directly to the municipality that's in. In there, it talks about annually that it increases 2% on there. If the municipalities do this, Gary Van Gorder, who's the president of the IDA, stated that you approve it and you send that to the IDA, and any solar company that comes in, they will hand them the thing and say, this is what you have to do for the town of Preble, for instance. He's not going to negotiate anymore because really the negotiation has been hurting us. They do have some good, big wins with Burn Dairy. I think the other one that we did was Pyrotech. Those, but they brought in jobs, a lot of jobs. The solar doesn't do that. The solar has, the construction, which they bring in themselves. And then like the 90 megawatt facility of 500 acres has 3 full-time employees. That's it. It doesn't do the municipalities or anybody any good for this right here. So you can take a look at that. That's what the proposal was. And right now, the kicker that really bugs me is that the IDA, no questions asked, it's state law, they get 1% of the value of the construction value right off the top. 90 megawatt facility is $90 million. IDA gets 900,000 of that right off the top once the project has been approved. Cortland County's not even thought of. Town's not even thought of. And we're fighting to get some revenue in here. That's the way I look at it. Lapeer, if you guys have looked in the newspaper with Lapeer, Lapeer's solar array was 23 million. They get 230. Now you have Lapeer want to come to the town to drop their assessment of what they had. They've already been getting payment in lieu of taxes. So this is just one of these things that's coming around. So what we're trying to do is to get the municipalities, review it with your attorney, see if it works for you. If it does, we would like you to approve it. And what that does is it gets rid of this law. It just makes it. Where I'm having a problem is the way our committee is. I can't get it through to the full legislature. It's a little top heavy, there's some politics dividing that part. But if anyone has any questions on this, and I might have forgotten something, Jim, that we talked about, but in a nutshell, this is something that we really need to fight with to get that $7,000 per megawatt.
Kevin, is there a deadline that we would need to have a resolution on this?
No, that's why I wanted to bring it today. Paul looked into it. He's been going around from town to town to
Paul
look.
is supporting this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Excuse me, Kevin.
Mhm.
Where did I read, and maybe it's on the news, that the state wants to, any project over X size, basically bulldoze over any local laws?
It is. There's two things. One, the governor is the one that's been pushing this to be carbon neutral by 2030, and we know that the nuclear power plant is going away.
Indian Point.
Indian
nuclear power
Point
plant.
is done. So being carbon neutral, and it was in a news conference that I watched that he was trying to, and this is not smashing anyone, but he wanted to stimulate the economy because of COVID in New York. One of the things he talked about was that the land up in central New York is prime for solar. They've got I forgot what they called, the yellow line, high tension wires to get that one moving so that they can bring the electricity down to New York City. So really, if you look at it, how many millions of people are in there? So if they could really cut that, he could probably make his carbon neutral by 2030 just by New York City alone, that way. So doing that, and now what he did is he created, I think it was Title 9 or something like that. Where what it is they're coming in, and it kind of supersedes home rule. So he's saying, here's the money they got. I forgot how many billions of dollars to get these in. So this is what's happening. There's all these companies. EDF is from France and stuff. So they're seeing the money. They're getting it set up. Over 36,000 acres is what they're looking at, is putting it solar in upstate New York. And by doing this and creating these state laws that supersedes any municipality or county, is kind of like fast track to get this done. Solon has been fighting this, and they're kind of pulling the bluff. No, we're opting out of this. You can't do it. But they really know that they don't have any claim to it because the law is the law. But that's just the way that they want to do it over there.
Well, Kevin, I've got a question. How strong would this motion be if you make this and the county gets together, bands together and says, this is what we want as far as payment? Would the state recognize this?
Yes.
Okay.
Solely because the state is the one that tells us we have to have IDA. IDA is the one that will, hey, this is what the town of Preble wants. It's the IDA's pilot. It's their negotiation over this, and they supersede us.
Mhm.
So it was during the meeting that we had, 2 weeks ago, where Gary Van Gorder stated to everybody, and online, is that if your towns do this and you send that to me, I'm not doing anything. They're going to have to. The company comes in, we pull it out, and we say you have to satisfy this. And if they don't, then they're not going to have an agreement, and they're just going to walk. They're going to go somewhere else. The other thing that we did find during all of this part is the farms that have the forever farmland. If they get paid by the state and they lock it in. In there, it talks about 10% of the 10% of that property that's locked in is good for renewable energy, solar, so on and so forth. So they could do that. And I think it's Solon that has the same problem, is that they are these farms are doing the contracts, and they're pushed because they need, they need to pay their taxes, so on and so forth. So they're really hurting there for doing that. So for the Gary Van Gorder, we're still dealing with that issue, but we want to know, or I want to know, where that 1% is going. So that 900,000 that he gets here, 200, they have 26 projects in Cortland County that they're going through right now. And 1% of those, I mean, could be a huge amount. So what we're trying to do is to figure out, where is that going? Is it going back into the county? And if it's not, then we're going to start giving them direction on where to go and what businesses to bring in for Cortland County. Because one of the things that we've been hearing right now is we don't have any ag industry here in Cortland County that farms can sell milk to, stuff like that, to get the prices back up to satisfy here in Cortland County. So those are some of the things we're trying to look at right now. Any other questions on that?
Just a quick comment, and I haven't looked, I just heard this today. Anybody that goes down by across from the Lowe's entrance and goes down Gracie Road, look down there, they basically clear cut hundreds of acres of trees to be environmentally friendly.
Yep.
And now it's all solar panels in there. Same thing in Lakeview, that was all forest land that they took down to put in these. It just seems kind of
And they told them
counterintuitive.
Oh, it is. And they said they weren't doing it. They weren't going to do it. They weren't going to clear cut anything. They were going to use the worst land, soil. They were going to do this, but they just haven't done it yet. And I'm on the County Soil and Water Board. And so I asked them, I said, are you involved in any of this solar projects? And they're like, absolutely not. I'm like, why aren't you? They've never offered. I said, well, we're going to get you put in there because we need you to start scrutinizing some of this stuff on where it's going. So it's a big deal. They have a section 93 that the state just enacted to fast track all the requirements for these solar farms, because it was taking so long with their other law that they had. Now they're doing another one. So it's just one of these things where they're just going to push. And I think that's where Solon gets a little upset. It's like, why are you pushing so hard? And you're pushing it in the town of Solon. So I don't know.
What's the life expectancy of one of these solar farms?
They're saying 30 years.
And then what happens after that?
Well, one of the things that has to happen is then they have to bond. And one of the bonding it's a percentage of the total value, and then that percentage goes to the municipality to hold on to. They have to be the managers of it. Every 5 years, they go around and they reevaluate what it would cost to tear them all down and put the property right back where it was. So that was another one. So you do get chunks of money to go there, but then it's up to the municipality. From what we heard during our meeting, it's up to the municipality to manage that funding.
I can foresee, Kevin, a time when it's possible where new technology comes in from something that we've never even thought of, that leapfrogs over this, and it's so efficient and so powerful that it makes all this obsolete. And so that's where that bonding comes in. If that were to happen, then the town would have money to clean up the project. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's only right too that the local municipalities get a cut out of this, since it's on the land of the municipality.
Yeah, and that's where that resolution comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
That it's 1,500 on top, right off the top, that goes to the municipality. So it works. I mean, it's a pretty good, it's better than what it has been. And you can then still create your own host agreement on there. So as long as you even have another host agreement on top of that coming in here, Willet, they receive, I think it's like 13,000 a year as a host agreement on top of their, I think they're at 2,000 per megawatt, I think for that one. And stuff.
Got a question?
What's,
Go ahead.
what's a landowner typically get on one of these solar farms?
That's what we don't know, because the contract that they agree to is, it's not part of, so we don't know what it is. And one of the things that we were hoping is that they would come to us and just see, because we want to make sure they have the right deal.
Right.
And instead of taking what they're going to give. And that's, to me, was the hard part. But they're like, well, it's their own land. They can do what they want.
What's a megawatt of electricity worth?
Right now.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, EDF, the company from France, they're in the billions and hundreds of billions of dollars is what they're worth. And they're coming here. So for them, what is it worth? I don't know. That's
Well,
why.
I'd say, I mean, they're paying landowners a fee. They're going to pay. You want to pay $7,000 there. You want to pay $1,500 here.
Well, I'll tell you,
energy worth?
Buffalo is up to 12,000 per megawatt. In Tompkins County, they did a little review around all these counties and it fluctuates. And then, here, IDA is they're not looking out for Cortland County when they're making these negotiations for pilot at 2,000 per megawatt and getting 1%. To me, it just doesn't seem fair to the residents of Cortland.
Kevin, I think we have to say that, let everybody know that IDA is not a government agency. It's a private corporation. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. And Cortland County, we do not pay into that, into the IDA. So there's no county budget that goes to that. So the 1% is their operating budget. But they're here for Cortland County. They have 2 more years on their contract for that. On the side, there's another group that's with them, and that's the business development, the BDC. We do pay them. We're right around 450,000 that we pay for them. But they kind of work together, in a way.
Is there a minimum megawatt the IDA has for the pilot?
Yeah, I do believe it's 1 megawatt or above is.
And just to clarify too, the $1,500 for the town comes out of the $7,000, right?
Yeah, it
Okay.
comes out of there off the top, and then the rest of that, you get a percentage of that one as well. Yeah, but the host gets the 1,500 per megawatt. I don't think anything has come through to Preble, but it's nice to have this established
Right.
now. And the other one that came up, and I didn't read your zoning. Do you have a local law for roads,
A local law for roads?
for repair, for companies like this coming in? I remember when that was the whole fracking deal.
Right.
They were worried about the roads getting all beat up and stuff, and because of their equipment. Same thing would happen here
Okay.
for that.
Well, I see this as a positive for the towns to join together to do this. Don, do you see any objection to authorizing this now, making the resolution now, or should we wait a month and maybe there's more information coming? This seems to be pretty set up here.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this, so I really can't react to it. I mean, conceptually, it makes sense. Um, I mean, I've had a conversation with Gary on another municipality. There was a question, well, first of all, there's a state law that exempts for real estate tax assessment purposes. There's a state law, and Kevin, you can jump in on this anytime, but there's a state law that exempts solar development from real property taxes. So if you do nothing, and at least from our perspective, from the town law, town taxes, you can opt out of that exemption. Okay, so this resolution, I think, is in that direction. But in the towns we've done something on, we've done it by local law. In other words, and the choice is either to do a pilot, which means that you can tax up to the normal tax assessment or anything less. That's what a pilot is. It's a compromised number in lieu of what your taxes would normally be. Or you can opt out of that exemption and you could tax them in full. So what we felt that to opt out of this state law that exempts all of these projects from real property tax, that you should do it by local law versus just resolution. So that's a question I have, whether, and I assume the people at the county have looked at that and they feel that this works, and that's fine. I'd certainly want to look at that. And the other thing the question in my mind, I guess the IDA is the outfit that can negotiate a pilot. One of the questions we had was, well, can the town take part in that? Does it, what governance does the town have on setting what the terms of the pilot are? And according to my conversation again with the IDA, they basically have the ability to make that deal. And Gary, as much as said, he didn't want to force it on the town, but or towns. He wanted to work with the towns. So apparently you have something there.
Sorry about the crinkle.
Yeah, 487.
Yeah, so it's the real property tax law 487.
Yeah.
But you have to opt out as a town.
Right. So that's what I was saying. It's 487 is a section of the tax law that has this exemption.
One of the things that we worried about the tax law is that it doesn't pick out solar farms. It's solar. So if you have homeowners that have that on their homes or on their property, they would get taxed just like a solar farm. No one knows. I don't think anyone. We've been asking assessors, how do you do it? Is it a positive thing? Does it increase taxes for people? Tompkins County, for homes, for residents that have it, they don't do anything with it because they feel that if anything, it deters and it reduces the value of your home because you have it on top of a house. And resale value, people might not want to deal with that mess, when they want a home. So they feel that they won't get people to buy the property. And this is where if we opt out and solar farm comes in and they don't see that their solar farm is getting the same as a homeowner, then you're going to be looking at grievances and stuff like that. You see what I mean? So I guess it's the way you look at it with the real property tax law. Some, the assessor from Homer says, I'm not gonna do anything with it for a resident because it's one thing. What are you gonna do? Increase it like, $100 maybe a year? They didn't think that it was of any value. So I think that's where the real property tax law has it, because it doesn't look at it as industry, residential. It looks at it as one whole thing.
Well, the premise, as I understand it, is if I make an improvement to my home and I increase the value of my home, my assessment goes up. I pay more taxes. Solar development is, from a taxing standpoint, no different. If you increase the value, you take the hillside or whatever, and you put $1 million worth of solar panels in there, you've increased the value of that parcel. Now there's a base tax for just recreational land or whatever it's classified. This exemption law says that development is exempt from real property tax unless you opt out of the exemption. And if you opt out, you can either opt out to tax that improvement in full, like you tax any other improvement to your house or my house or some other business, or you can opt out to give yourself authority to enter into a pilot. But either way, you have to take the affirmative action to be able to impose a tax, either by just taxing or through a pilot. So again, maybe that resolution does it as far as us opting out, but my first thought is we need to opt out. That may be, I think the idea of banding together is probably a very good one. I guess I'd like to look at it, not really, I haven't looked at it yet, so I really can't speak to it. But that's part of the background of this taxation. Going to Jeff's question too, I think the cutoff is where you get into the state approval process, and you all can correct me on it, but there's a megawatt cutoff. And I'm going to say it's 10 megawatts, but I'm not sure that's correct. In other words, the size of the project, you hit a certain trip level, and I think if it's 10 megawatts or more, and again, Kevin, you may have the number on that, but at that point, it goes to the state approval process, and that really trumps local regulations. Solon, for example, has passed a solar law that has certain regulations on what you have to follow if you put in solar panels. Okay, the feeling is if it's a project under 10, then it's going to be subject to the requirements of that local law. If it's over the 10 megawatts, it's a bigger project. The state may take a look at and consider what you have locally, but they're going to review it at the state level. It's not going to have that local review. So that's one of the things floating around in these things too. So, I mean, to do something so that there is some tax generated, that's a question for the town. If you're a town that wants to encourage solar development in your town, you probably just leave the exemption. Meaning your policy statement is, we don't want to tax that kind of improvement. If, on the other hand, you're either against solar or you want to generate tax revenue, then you should opt out and move in the direction of either a pilot or just a straight opt-out, which says, we're going to tax you like everyone else. The discussion we got into in Solon, because I believe that's what they passed, that really is, in my view anyway, and it's been discussed, that if you opt out and don't give yourself the ability to do a pilot to make a deal, it kind of sends a message to a solar company that says, we don't want you here. Because Kevin, you probably have more familiarity with this, but I've seen a few of these in action, and I've heard one guy come right out and say at a town board meeting that if we don't get a pilot, we're not coming in here. Because it's all about the numbers. What's the capital investment? They know what the capital investment is, and they got to have a certain return on that dollar. And part of it is getting tax breaks. So that, so my point is, if you did opt out completely, taking away any ability, of course, we're just a town, we're not the county. It's just a town tax. But it certainly would greatly reduce the likelihood of any solar company coming here. And I'm not saying what's right or what's wrong, what's good or bad. Those are some of the things that I've dealt with over the last several months with other towns. So this is, I'd love to look at it, and I don't know if you Kevin, if it's not critical to get acted on tonight.
No, it's not. And all the other municipalities we would want them to have their attorneys look at it. I mean, this was created by Pat Snyder. He's the attorney for the 90 megawatt project because they had to designate one for it, and he's the one that went up and created that.
So who's he representing, Kevin? Isn't he representing the towns?
The three.
Yeah. So he's not
for this project only.
Right. So it's not for the developer. He's on the municipality side.
Yeah.
It sounds like Paul Hyder and the legislature is encouraging us to be a part of this.
Yes.
So, but there's no deadline for us to take action.
No.
So, John, why don't we sit on this for a little bit and
Yeah, if I could take a look at that, Jim, and probably give Pat a call and just go over.
I think you've got a copy yourself of this. I think you've got a copy of this.
Here tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I've got my agenda.
Somewhere in the packet.
Okay.
All right, so we'll sit on this, and Don will take a look at it, and we can revisit this. Yeah, Jeff?
Kevin, quick question. Is the pilot and the taxes, are they based on construction megawatts or what they actually produce?
Right now, I'll take the crinkled one. It is based on, if you're looking at assessments, two ways. One was the construction cost. The other was just that. What does it produce? Well, here's one of the kickers that we found out as well, is for the 90 megawatt facility. And it took some pulling because we had a representative from EDF there. So the power lines have a max output that they can take. And they have to create, they're creating one, they call it, I guess, a spur. They're creating one to handle the energy. And then the other two, once they get to the full 90 watt, they're going to be maxed. So they're like, well, what's going to happen? Well, we're just going to have to see how it deals with it. But they might have to then create another spur for that. Well, what are they worried about? Solon's worried about their people with their electricity. What's going to happen to them? Are they going to have it? Because the power lines can't handle what this thing is going to be doing. So right now it's almost in the negotiating phase for the for the pilot, and right now they're not budging from 2,500 per megawatt. So they're going to be, pushing, pulling. But if, it comes out, and here's the thing, if 7,000 per megawatt is approved by everybody, people are saying, well, you're pushing them out of Cortland County for the short term, because all the other municipalities or counties around here, they only have so much land too. Pretty soon they're going to come right back, and they're going to deal with 7,000. I don't think there has ever been a solar project in Cortland County that has gotten the $4,000 per megawatt. It's always been more. I think its average is right 2,000 per megawatt. So you shouldn't have to struggle, for that. So yeah, if you go down Lime Hollow, it's just ripped.
Another quick comment, there's a reason there's 4 major ski areas in this area. It's because it's overcast, we get lake effect, and that's why I asked about if it's produced power, and the jobs that you're gonna create is hiring 50 people to go out there and brush those things off in the middle of winter, because I take care of the ones out here, and when I brush them off, you can get right on the grid, and you can see right when I did it. And if they're not making anything for 2 or 3 months in the winter, are we not gonna be getting any
Mhm.
revenue from that? Is my point. And it seems insane that they're coming to, especially northern Portland County, looking at solar. It's got to be probably one of the dingiest places in the winter
Yeah.
in the whole state. So, but that's got to come into their figure and how many percentage of sunshine you get here. So,
So we done with the solar?
I think so. We're gonna sit on this for a little bit.
Okay.
Come back. We'll revisit it later.
Okay, so we're pretty much up and running in the county, and that's good. We had a stabbing, I guess, this morning at 10 in the morning at the parking lot, the county office building. Don't know what that means. And then really the big one, and I'm not going to say a lot about it, but the results and the findings are coming out this month for the consulting from Transpro, and I think you'll be happy. Not to just leave it there, but I think you'll be happy about it. So that's coming out this month for everybody to see.
Okay.
Okay. Anything? No. The speeding we've had over there, it's Song Lake Road. We have had the police there a lot and stuff, so it has calmed down a little bit for that. But I'm still going for the sign and to get that digital one put in. It takes forever. I talk about bureaucracy. Is the state of New York? You have to pretty much give your right arm for that. So I have to do this full proposal assessments and how much traffic tickets have been done for the last 5 years. It's like this whole gamut of stuff. So still working on that. But
I see they leave them there forever too.
yeah.
You know,
They try to do the police car one. So they'll put a patrol car out there unmanned, and then they'll pull it, and then they'll go back with a man and stuff. So I think they have been pulling people over there. A lot of them are residents. Okay, thank
Thanks
you.
a lot, Kevin. Okay, Jane?
Zoning code, one permit issue, 57 miles travel, 7 building inspections, 38 hours work, 1 fire inspection, 5 complaint follow-up, 15 telephone inquiries. Planning board meeting, August 27th. ZBA meeting, September 3rd.
Thanks, Jane. Historian is not here tonight.
We collected fees of $185, dispersed 166 to the town of Preble and 19 to New York State.
Thanks, Jane. Unfinished business. We have 1692 Steiger Road property. There's still broken sheetrock and insulation board that is on that property. It's after sending, I believe, 2 letters from Dylan's office. They got 95% of it up, but they're leaving about 5% there for some reason. And so it's still there. So I just want everybody to know that what further action can we take at this point, Don, and what's really economically feasible
Right.
for us to do?
You can file a small, in justice court, you can file a violation. We've tried that in the past with, some level of success. Last time it was done here, I think was, with a fella up here on Atisco Valley, Steve, yeah. And it didn't really generate much of a result. I think we ended up going to Supreme Court on that one. But I've seen, local filings work elsewhere. This fella doesn't live here, right? So
No,
it's
he lives in Portland.
maybe a little bit of a,
But how much money do we want to spend? I could go over myself and get a wheelbarrow and get rid of it.
that's the problem on these
You know.
things.
Yeah.
You don't
But-
want to start doing that.
Oh, no.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
you'll be going to everybody's.
Right.
But you could issue an appearance ticket, and that would really be the next step, I think.
If you got an appearance ticket, you just might go over and scoop up the rest of it. And be done.
Yeah, that's what you'd be hoping for.
Yeah. So what do we want to do as a board? Appearance ticket? Okay. Everybody agree that that's something we should do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Don, we'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah, normally that is done by your code officer, so I'll get a hold of Rick and see what
Okay.
his approach is.
Okay.
Okay.
Speaking of Steve Morgan property, has any more been done on that?
I see John Morgan pulling stuff out of there. So I don't really know if it's probably for taxes, but the county is going to do a tax sale, I think this past spring, and because of COVID, they postponed it. And they're not really sure when they're going to, I think next spring they're going to do a tax sale. So it's been postponed for a year. But John is starting to clean it up. So he's got his own personal property there and he's bringing it somewhere. Okay, code enforcement fees. We probably all looked at those schedules. And I talked to Don this morning. Don and I discussed it. And Rick didn't seem to have it too well organized. That's the first thing I noticed is if you go to the old schedule in 2010 and you look at the first item, where's the first item on his schedule, So, and then there were line items that were missing, he didn't have in there. So I met with Rick this afternoon. I just asked him to try to match up, from what we had before and show us. Yeah, right. Make it simple so we don't have to go hunting around. And so he's going to give us a new schedule that is in better organizational format. So we're not going to do anything with that quite yet. New business. This is a annual procedure that we do. We need a resolution to accept the standard workday and reporting resolution for elected and appointed officials for employees, standard workday and report regarding New York State and local retirement system. So in a nutshell, anybody who's in the retirement system and employed by the town of Preble, either full-time or part-time, Gina creates a schedule and she files with the state, and she has that filled out, and everybody has a copy here. So we just need to make a resolution. Don, how would we word this? A resolution to file this report?
You have something there in your hands that, see, I don't have.
Yeah, maybe you don't have this.
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
here, pass this. Oh, Jeff.
Yeah, I don't have it. So is this a report on past, or is this a prospective statement, Jeff?
it's from January 1st of this year forward to whatever the terms are of the, like my elected term or Donna's, or there's a formula that Gina fills out. Basically, if the board has to pass a resolution because we're either elected or appointed, the guys that punch clock every day don't have to do this. The clock is their time. But this covers, you know, vouches that we're supposed to work X hours to get credit for.
For your state retirement.
Correct.
That's what this is about. And this was issued by New York State Local the retirement system?
That's their form that Gina fills out.
Oh, okay. So
You get submitted to the local retirement system every 2 years. And then every 6 years, you gotta actually keep track of 3 months of hours and submit that with it. And that's not this year, that was a couple of years ago. So you just keep tagging on until you get to that 6th year.
do we need to post this too? Affidavit of posting. Have you posted this in the past?
I'm here to post.
Okay. So, you would need a resolution adopting this standard workday report for the elected and appointed officials noted. As provided to you by the town bookkeeper.
So moved.
Yeah.
We get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Hey,
Carried? Okay. This is normal procedure. We do it every 2
Yeah.
years and
Yeah.
it comes up. And nobody but Jeff can remember how this actually goes since he's in it. Okay, we talked about the Unified Solar Pilot. We talked about that. Another thing that Don and I talked about this morning is, Sheriff Helms wrote a letter that was pretty interesting. You don't have to do anything about this. I'm just informing everybody. He wrote about his opinion about the governor, the executive order that he put forth directing all counties to reform their police agency or lose all state funding for all county programs. He was quite upset about that, and he wrote, looks like a 3.5-page letter stating his opinion on that. I would advise everybody just to read it because it is pretty interesting. And then just a few days after that, he did send me an email. And he said, "Hi, Jim, I wanted to make you aware of New York State pause complaint I received regarding masks not being worn at one of your meetings. Thanks, Mark." So I mentioned to Don that he's not telling us what to do, but he's just saying, take a look at this. And so apparently there was somebody who came to one of our meetings who called in the fact that not everybody was wearing a mask. So, Don, you did a little bit of research on this.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything exactly, but it's from what I read, you can have gatherings of up to 50 people. And it seems to say that if you can maintain the 6-foot distance or greater, that the mask is not required.
Okay. Okay.
I don't have the governor's definitive statement per se on that, but that's the best I could come up with in the relative short time I had to check it out. But that's
And as supervisor of the town of Preble, I don't want to tell people they have to wear a mask or they don't have to wear a mask, and I'll leave people to choose to do that as they wish, or not come to the meeting. They can watch it on YouTube. So that's just the way I feel about it. But if anybody has any other input,
Yeah, I just look at it as when we have our legislative session, and we're 6 feet away. I mean, that's my understanding and the county's understanding
Mhm.
is that you have the mask with you. If you can't maintain the 6 foot social distancing, you put it on.
Mhm.
But if you can, you don't have to have it on.
Okay.
And our legislative sessions,
Just for a simple rule of thumb, I put my arm out, Jim puts his arm out, and
It's pretty much.
I mean,
Yeah.
so that's what our directive is. that
Okay, and Sheriff Helms is not telling us to do one thing or another. He's just saying, just beware of the rules. So, yeah, I have an insert in there highlighted, which is interesting reading too. So you can take it for what it's worth. Okay, so I think we've been doing everything okay. Everybody's pretty spread apart, and I don't think anybody here is offended by anything that's going on. If you are, speak up and we can talk about it. Okay, we received from Northeast Transformers $1,771.89. Received from USPS $741.92. Now we'd like to open up our meeting to public comment or questions. If anybody has anything they want to discuss, we can bring it up now.
just a couple of things there. I don't know, Homer School's still not using our fields down there, but that wall is really deteriorating. And I don't know.
I'm glad you brought that up because I did get a call and an email from Jeremy Boylan. Most of you know who he is. And he runs a U14 Little League team. And he mentioned that he would like to play a few games down there. And I said, you're more than welcome because Homer, the Homer situation has totally disintegrated when the new ball field went in Cortland. And I said, you're welcome to use the field, but the field hasn't been used last season and hasn't been used this season. So you're going to have to do a little bit of work to get it up to whatever quality you want. And then he also had an insurance document too, that if anybody got hurt on that shift, that their insurance would cover it. So
Is this fence becoming unsafe?
this is the outfield fence. This
Right.
is the outfield
The big
wall.
blue wall
Yeah.
with
Big
big
wall.
panels, 4x8 sheets of plywood.
It's actually beyond the reach of the players. So,
Well, I'm just thinking in terms of something falling.
yeah,
If we go down and look at
we could.
it, see what he.
Or Jeff can take a look at
The
it.
plywood that fell off, most of it fell off this winter when we had one of those real heavy windstorms. It's a big wall of plywood up there, and it just, as the sun hits it dries it out, and it's reeking it a little bit, and then you have a big gust of wind. Is what took it down. We haven't, I know of, none have fallen down since snow melted under normal weather conditions. It was a couple of those blingers that we had through the winter.
Yeah, but this is something the Homer put it up, and they're not maintaining it. No one's maintaining
Right.
it.
Right.
They
So
were
over
up
time,
there-
it's gonna.
They were actually up there this spring and put 2 or 3 pieces back up. I can't think of the gentleman that works for the phone company. He had a truck out there when it dried out. He shot some screws into it.
So I just thought that Jeremy Boylan's team, his U14 team, by playing there, it can only improve the field by using it. The fields are meant to be used. And he said parents would like to come and get that field back up to standard to play on it. So he did send me the insurance document too, which I didn't bring in tonight. But I'm glad you brought that up.
One other thing, I'd like to recognize the fire department. They did an awesome job on whoever they hired to paint the building and get that. It looks like a really nice building, and it needed to be maintained. And whoever did that I think, has done a wonderful job.
And he's still working on it.
Yep.
Museum quality painting, it said, but it was important to clean it because it had coat after coat over the last 50 years, and there's multiple coats of paint on it. It just wasn't sticking, just slapping it on. So he did take the time to pressure wash it and scrape and tape, and but
It looks beautiful now. Very
It's a
nice, yeah.
nice looking building.
Now we need some members. If anybody wants to join, I'll be happy to get an application.
And I was told that if you're too old to be a fireman, you can always be a driver. Yeah, they need drivers. Anything else that anybody wants to bring up? Okay,
A resolution on the permit we were discussing last time.
Resolution on the permit.
Yeah, anything been going on with it?
Jim and I talked about that this morning, and I've not received any communication, as was indicated at our last at our last board meeting. So we don't know what.
Right, we had no communication on that.
So he didn't call you, the attorney didn't.
He said he was gonna work things out with
Yeah,
Don.
yeah.
And we were kind of wondering what that meant,
All right.
but there was no communication. So as far as the town board is concerned at this time is, well, we have our most recent code enforcement officer, Brian Butner. He wrote a letter that I think most of you got that gave a deadline when the application time would expire. And that's, I believe, August 31st. So that applicant has until then to bring in a drawing. If the drawing isn't in by then the application expires and she has to pretty much start over again.
Mhm.
So as far as we're concerned as a board, she needs a drawing. But we hired 2 code enforcement officers and they both said she needs a drawing.
Yeah, I really believe the attorney sat there and said that and went on and on about us being picking on her, but I don't agree with that at all. I think we put forth really good efforts to treat her fairly, and I've never seen an applicant in the last 10 years on the planning board or any place that didn't produce what they were asked to do, and most of them produce more and cooperate. So
Thanks for that comment, Jim. You being in the trenches for 10 years,
yeah.
planning board, you've seen a lot. You've seen a lot of projects go through.
A lot. Yeah.
And she's not being asked to do anything that anybody else was asked to do.
No, not at all.
So we're waiting and maybe we'll hear something, maybe we won't. So, thanks for bringing that up, Mike. Any other questions or comments about anything?
Number 8, numbers 146 to 164, totaling $5,716.85.
Second.
All in favor? We need a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers.
I'll make a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers abstract number 8, numbers 81 to 89, totaling $12,481.56.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. We need a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Hi, Dan. You're welcome. You're welcome anytime.
Hey, kind of got your box in there.
Thank you.
A lot.
Thanks for coming over.
Oh, yeah.
Get again tomorrow.
Yeah.
See, Kevin?
Dan, I didn't recognize you. You don't have your hat on.
Yeah. Mass fan.
Is your hair cut?
No.
Trying to be
I
thought of one thing I was gonna
incognito the other night.
Yeah.